Chamber Exchange, a TV show, is a show that's really designed to facilitate conversation and share with you, our viewers, issues pertaining to economic development, some of the great things that many Worcester area Chamber member businesses are doing, and talking about job creation and investment in the region. And I'm really pleased to have with us Pat Hughes, who's the president and CEO of Fallon Health, who's led that organization over the past 8 years. Pat, we're going to have a chance to talk about Fallon Health and some of the work that it's done, but kind of bittersweet after 8 years
yeah, a little bit.
calling the defenses as a former NFL linebacker.
Yeah, right.
You recently announced your retirement.
Yes, yeah, I did. Well, you know, all good things come to an end at some point, and you know, for me, I'm getting within arm's reach of 70, and you know, I thought that there was a window of opportunity. The plan is in a good place right now. The balance sheet is strong. We just had a nice acquisition, and I think that it's time to go do some other things that I've been kind of putting off. I've got a 5-year-old granddaughter that thinks that I'm the greatest thing since night baseball, and I got to take advantage of that, Tim, while I can.
Those windows are, yeah.
Yeah, and while she's still thinking that, but no, it's just been a wonderful experience to be here.
Yeah, I mean, I want to get into a couple specific things that you've been heavily involved with and led, and that acquisition being one of them. But you know, when people kind of think about your tenure, 8 years leading a major employer, important to Worcester and Central Massachusetts, but Fallon Health is really throughout the Northeast.
Yes, we had the largest network expansion in the company's history several years ago throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and then we have branched out into other states. We have a company, Fallon Health Weinberg, in Western New York and Buffalo. We had completed a project we were working with down in Virginia with the Inova Health System down there. But we've tried to expand. Our programs have application to frail elders, and that issue is resident throughout the country, and especially here in the Northeast. So we're trying to reach as many as we possibly can. So,
and you know, during that 8 years, there's been tremendous transition. You know, perhaps like none other in kind of healthcare. You saw here in the Commonwealth the implementation of healthcare for all, or Romney Care, it became known as. Later on at a national level, Obamacare, which had impacts on the Romney Care, which had been up and running here in the Commonwealth, and had a chance to work with Governor Patrick and the legislature to implement that, and people like yourselves. You know, every day something different.
It's been. I've been 30 years in the business. I would say to you, this past half dozen years or so, it's just been incredible with the change, and the regulatory environment has only increased in terms of what the plans have to do and maintain and keep up with. It's also been incredibly costly for the plans in terms of compliance with these regulations and what have you. And you know, and I think that you know, at its essence, the idea and the ability that this country should be able to provide coverage, care and coverage for its population is the right goal and objective. I think sometimes it got mixed up in the implementation phase of it with legislature and rules and regulations, and trying to manage that way. I think that you know, what we asked for at one point was let's just call time out, right? Time out. You know, let's you know, recalibrate things and you know, and stop passing legislation. Let us digest what we've got. And I think the market has done that for the most part. I think there are still kinks to work out. The whole risk adjustment issue in the small group market is still needs to be you know, fixed, and where everybody can agree.
And that was something where some Fallon other companies are looking for that waiver.
Right, exactly.
But, unable to get it at the federal level.
Unable to get it, and you know, and became a very costly piece of legislation. I mean, we last year, I think, or this past year, $11 million, you know, we put forth in terms of risk adjustment to pay into the pool. And so we're trying to work through those kinds of things. I'm not going to make any bones about it. I do smile when I think about it because it's not my issue anymore. and you know, although you know, I will watch carefully from the sidelines,
Right.
And try to keep my hands away from it. But you know, I think the company's in a good place, and
Right.
and the future I think is also in good shape.
Well,
So.
you know, a couple of those programs that you talked about, program for, you know, frail elders and others, but you know, Summit Elder Care, that's been a
Yes.
program that's really
Right.
Fallon. has
Yeah,
got a-
yeah.
a
We
brand.
became, the plan became the first payer provider in the marketplace back in 1995 with our first PACE program at East Mountain Street. We're celebrating our 20th
Right.
year this year.
You got that pin on.
I got my 20-year pin on, and we've gone around. We've had celebrations at each of our sites. We've got 6 sites here in Massachusetts. There'll be a 7th PACE site in Western New York with the Weinberg folks, and then the 8th will be in Lowell, which will open either later this year or the first part of next year.
And an opportunity to grow as the baby boom generation gets older, you know, and every day, you know, employers and employees are kind of trying to grapple with that
Right.
issue of taking care of parents or elderly relatives.
Yeah, it's an issue that's only going to grow in magnitude. The numbers are staggering. So it's 10,000 baby boomers a day, every day, from now until 2029. That is 76 million people.
Wow.
That's a market.
Wow. Yeah, yeah.
And the beauty here is that Fallon has developed the expertise and the skill sets and the models of care to provide services for families and their frail elders. You know, families who want to keep mom or dad at home, but have to work and have other commitments and so forth. These programs are tailored for them and to support them. And the work that the plan and the folks at the plan do is just nothing short of phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a great organization. So.
You know, as we talk about kind of the changing healthcare dynamic and all the laws and regulatory things you've dealt with, one thing that Fallon has been consistent on throughout is, and really kind of its foundation and when it was created, about health, preventative care,
Right.
communication between patients and providers, all of these things. But on the whole issue of kind of wellness, you're really kind of focusing on that in lots of different ways. Beginning with kind of nutrition and food.
Correct.
Some of the work you've done in the community, Fallon.
Yeah, no question. So that's a real problem, and that's an eye opener, you know, for a lot of people. You know that wait a minute, there are people going hungry here in the United States. Well, yeah, there are. And Fallon had started 10 years ago a golf and gather for a cause, and we named that cause, you know, food and nutrition for the community. We have over the last 10 years raised about $1.5 million for food banks throughout the Commonwealth, and have done just great things. Our last tournament, which was a couple of weeks ago, we raised about $160,000 that will go to food pantries and nutritional folks throughout the Commonwealth. And you know, it defies logic that in this day and age that there should be youngsters going to school, hungry families that are having a hard time putting a good meal on the table. To me, that shouldn't be, and our organization, the company, and our folks have done a wonderful job with that, and it's pretty heartwarming to kind of see the work that we do and how our folks really care about the community that we exist in. So it's all good stuff.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, we'll come back in our next segment, talk a little bit more about that, and then
Sure.
we can maybe even talk about definitions of nutrition. Tom Brady's talked a little bit about that
yeah.
lately. So stay with us. We're going to talk more about Fallon Health and a little bit of football with Pat Hughes. Welcome back to Chamber Exchange, a TV show brought to you by Fallon Health. Tim Murray, President and CEO of the Worcester Regional Chamber, and my guest continues to be Pat Hughes, the President and CEO of Fallon Health, who recently announced his retirement. And Pat, you know, again, I want to thank you for your work and leadership and that of the whole Fallon organization in so many different levels, but obviously supporting the Chamber and many of our member businesses. And we're going to have an opportunity to thank you publicly on November 5th at the 30th Central Mass Business Expo this year, reshaping it to a trade conference at our luncheon. We want to publicly thank you and recognize you for your work. And Jay Ash, who's the Secretary of Economic Development for the state, is going to be our keynote. But prior to that, we're going to have a little something for you, and hopefully have you say a few words to our 400 plus people who at this point are attending, and I think it's going to grow as word gets out.
That's kind. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate all.
This has just been a great community, and this company is just a great company. You know, I've never been, best team I ever played for.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, and really has. The people are engaged, they care, and it sets them apart. So I thank you for that. But we'll recognize everybody.
The whole team. But one of the things that we talked about in the first segment, just the fast-paced nature of healthcare and what's taking place here in the state, nationally. Clearly, technology has quickened that pace as well, and so you got to navigate. One of the things that you were able to just recently announced was the acquisition of a pretty sizable company in terms of membership.
Yes, a privately held company down on the South Shore called Group Insurance Service Center, GISC. And they're a TPA, third-party administrator. They deal exclusively with self-funded employers, large employers, throughout New England. So their footprint goes down into New York, New Jersey, and so it's compatible with our TPA Ultra benefits. So we've made that acquisition. We'll add about 17,000 members to the role and expand our influence in the self-insured marketplace. That'll give us almost 60,000 self-insured members that we have through our TPA Ultra benefits. So.
And just for a viewer who might not understand self-insured or TPA,
Sure, yeah,
that would be.
Yeah, so that's a large employer who decides to assume the risk of insuring their population. They need an entity to administer the program, to pay the claims, to provide service to their employees, to print the booklets and things of that nature. So that's what TPAs do. As a matter of fact, it's interesting that on my way out from the plan, I came to Fallon as a consultant back in 2005 to source an acquisition of a TPA, happened to be Ultra Benefits at that point. And so I came under that guise, and I guess I'm departing under that. I think that's kind of interesting, you know. So there may be a future for me somewhere. I don't know.
In addition to that, also some new plan offerings from Fallon.
Yes, we've recognized that the wellness and preventative benefits are fine, but we need to tailor some of our benefits to those with asthma, diabetes, high blood pressure, and things of that nature. So we've got some plans in the marketplace that you could go visit our website or go down to our info center down in White City and talk to our folks about these programs, but with lower copays and deductibles and other things like that, but are geared for those conditions that people need additional help and support. And I think that in the pharmacy side, there are prescriptions as low as $1 that would be beneficial.
And with all the construction completed on the $90 million Burns Bridge on Route 9, so and that
they did that for us.
Yes, just in time. But if people sometimes over the phone or even on a computer, people don't always feel they might get all the information.
Right.
And again, we talked about it in a previous show you were on at the White City Plaza in Shrewsbury, right over the line.
Right.
You have a
Well, we have
center.
Yes, we have an information center. We conduct programs there, nutritional programs, exercise programs, other things like that. It's staffed with our folks throughout the day and into the early evening, and they're there really for the benefit of the community to answer questions. You don't have to be a Fallon member to go into the info center, but we'll try and help you navigate through choices, decisions, concerns that you may have with existing programs or trying to make decisions on other things. And to me, it's really a great service to the community. Again, from a retail standpoint. standpoint to put an information center in a strip mall shopping center. It's been a wonderful experiment for us, and I think it's been beneficial to those in the community too.
You know, and that's really been a hallmark of Fallon. I mean, you know, not afraid to experiment and try new things. Some things catch, other things don't. But by and large, that's how you kind of capture that innovation.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and that's really the essence. You know, is very innovative, willing to take a risk. And you know, we had one of the first Medicare Advantage plans in the country. We were the first payer provider on the PACE side in 1995. So I mean, doing a lot of different things to try and find solutions that are going to play in the marketplace and solve people's problems. At the end of the day, you know, that's what these programs and these plans should do, should solve people's problems. And that's what we really focus on. So,
well, we've talked about a couple points in your career, 8 years leading Fallon Health. Prior to that, President and CEO of Hughes and Company. But again, for some of our viewers who may not be aware, 10 years in the NFL as a linebacker, graduated of Boston University.
Only got a little twitch.
Graduate of Boston University, played football there. So, you know, clearly right now, Patriots are on a roll in the aftermath of Deflategate. Your tenure with the Giants and the Saints. You know, today's NFL, your read on the season, and then we'll get.
Yeah, today's NFL is different. I think the players are bigger and faster, and they might be smarter. I don't know, but you know, it's a bit of a different game today in that regard. You know, the whole Deflategate thing, I think, you know, is, to me, it's unfortunate because I never knew how much air was in the football. I didn't really care. You could overinflate it, you could underinflate it. You know, our job was to find the guy with it and knock him down. And you know, so I think there was much to do about nothing as that. But I also think it's provided the Patriots with what looks like some serious incentive. I think they may run the table this year, and for all the right reasons, you know. And they're a great football team doing really good things. Going to get harder each week, you know, but I think they get better each week, and so it should be interesting. I don't think I could play today, you know. They got some defensive backs that are as big as I was when I played. So.
Well, you know, it seems that Bill Belichick has really put a high premium during the course of his career on versatile linebackers, so maybe you could.
Well, you know, yeah, I'd go into the time machine and come back, pop me back out on the field and see what happens. But, you know, he's the kind of guy you'd want to play for, though. He's a player's coach, and not from the standpoint of being, you know, buddy-buddy kind of thing or anything else, but he's a disciplinarian. He has a system. You adhere to the system. He demands that you become a student of the game, which is, I believe, I credit my understanding the offense as well as the defense to part of my longevity. That and the fact that I, you know, was healthy for 10 years and fortunate to stay that way. But you know, he's just a great coach and demands a lot from his players. But he puts them in the positions where they can win, you know, and do the most good. And to me, I think that's really what it's all about. Yeah.
Well, we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about winning football, maybe a few stories, some of the people you played with along the way. Yes, this is Chamber Exchange's TV show, but we're going to talk a little bit of football in our final segment with Pat Hughes, CEO of Fallon, President and CEO of Fallon Health. Stay with us. Welcome back to Chamber Exchange, the TV show. My guest, Pat Hughes, President and CEO of Fallon Health. And after 8 years stepping down, and we are pleased that on November 5th, when we have the 30th annual Central Mass Business Expo, this year trade conference, we're going to have a chance publicly at the luncheon at noon to thank Pat for his work and the leadership of his team at Fallon and in so many different ways in the community. We talked about his leadership at Fallon. We talked about his work prior to Fallon at Hughes and Company in the area of healthcare. But for many of our viewers, also 10 years in the NFL as a linebacker, as the captain of many defenses, calling the plays. Right. You know, we've had such an incredible offseason in football because of the whole Deflategate, and it's brought a lot of attention to quarterbacks who get a lot of attention. You were the quarterback on the defensive side, being that linebacker calling the plays, reading the offense. You know, some of the Tom Brady, Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning. You played with Peyton Manning's dad.
Yeah, I played with Archie Manning, and you know, when Peyton was just a seed, I think, I'm not sure, but Peyton and Eli, you know, Archie was a great quarterback. Played at Ole Miss. Unfortunately, Archie got drafted by the Saints. They were an expansion team in the mid '60s, and so when he came on board in the late '60s, early '70s, you know, he took an awful beating as the team was trying to put itself together. But he's produced a couple of really fine quarterbacks, you know. But I like Eli, you know. Peyton,
Is that because he's a Giant like
yeah,
you?
I think
New
so,
York
maybe.
Giant, the New York Football Giants.
Yeah, I think you have to stay loyal there. But you know, Peyton is, you know, Omaha, you know,
Right.
blah, blah, blah. You know, center the ball, you know, make the play. It's interesting. I said to somebody, it was a terrible thing to say, that before the game I'd write a check, give it to the official and say, I'm going to cash this at some point during the game.
Yeah, yeah.
On him.
Right, on the quarterback.
Yeah. But no, it was, you know, just for me, it was a dream come true. I grew up in Everett, and you know, we had the Giants in the '50s. That's what we watched as
Well, I mean,
kids.
that's a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
I mean, before the New England
right.
Patriots, from what I understand, people were either a Giants fan or a Browns fan.
Right, exactly, because there was no Patriots, or they were just starting in those early years. And so I got hooked on the Giants. My father and I was 10 years old. I watched the Giants play the Baltimore Colts, 1957, and in the championship game. They said it was the world's greatest game ever played. Colts won in overtime, first ever overtime. Alan Amici scored, and I was mesmerized by what I was seeing on the screen. These men, it was December, so the smoke is coming out of their mouth, and they got their blood on their hands. They got their hands on their hips, waiting for the offense to come out. And I just remember somehow something clicked inside and said, I wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Whatever that was, I wanted to do it. And you know, I fast forwarded, you know, 11 years, and I walked through that tunnel at Yankee Stadium into the dugout and up onto the infield, and looked out at that field and said, my God, you know, dreams do come true.
Yeah.
And had 7 great, you know, seasons with them before, you know, I was traded for a 6-pack of Dr. Pepper and a Snickers to the Saints, and had 3 great years down there before I retired. So
Good. Yeah.
I'm getting good at the retire thing.
Oh, right. Well, hey, you know, you're going to know our time. So Archie Manning, Fran Tarkington.
Yeah, Francis was the quarterback at the Giants when I first got there, and it was interesting. So a little bit of Giant trivia. I started 5 games at offensive center, 5 exhibition games, but the backup center was hurt. The starting center, Greg Larson, was hurt. I centered for punts in college, had a good, and so they asked, you know, could I get the ball up to the quarterback? Well, I had played center in high school, right?
Yeah.
So Tarkenton, you know, the first guy who steps in behind me says, give me a couple of snaps, kid. I turn around, I look up, it's Y.A. Tittle, right?
Wow.
And I'm saying, what do I do? I want him to sign the ball. I don't want to center the ball. So Y.A. says, you know, so I snap the ball. Yeah, okay. Francis steps in. He says, don't break my fingers. Whatever you do, don't break my fingers. So I snapped the ball a couple of times, and he said, that's it, he's it. So I start at offensive center. My first game is against the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field.
Wow.
Ray Nitschke,
The frozen tundra.
My hero, Ray Nitschke, is standing across from me with no teeth and a big grin, right? And
He's going to tune you
up. Oh,
up.
yeah, absolutely. He did. Make no mistake about it. But I started those 5 games. I had interesting experience. I got in a fight. 3rd play of the game with the Packers, Mike McCoy, a big defensive tackle, was a #1 draft choice. I think it was out of Notre Dame. 3rd play of the game, I get into a fist fight with him, right? So he's like, you know, 4 inches taller than I am, 30 pounds heavier than I am, and everything else. But I'm wailing the hell out of him as best I could, jumping up and so they pull us apart. I come back into the huddle, and Tarkenton looks at me and said, "I think you might make it." You know, I come off to the sidelines. Alex Webster, the coach, said, you know, he said, "Son," he says, I admire your courage. I question your intelligence." So that was my early on experiences, you know, in the league. But it was just it was a dream come true.
Yeah.
You know, for 5 years I thought that they made a mistake and I wasn't supposed to be there.
Right, right.
You know, and then I finally settled in and just was able to have play a lot of fun. So.
You know, just in the couple minutes we have left, but you know, if anything, you learn about teamwork and execution, and that's really how helped you, I assume, in your positions of leadership.
Yeah, I think everybody speaks to team. You know, I think that intuitively I understand it better than 95% of the people, in terms of the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It's not built on 1 or 2 or 3 people. Mm-hmm. It's built on all of the people, and you know, I've been able to transition some of those. We were kidding earlier, you know, about things that you bring over, but I would call during managing and during issues and challenges, you know, of implementing programs and things like that. I'd have what I refer to as coachable moments. Yeah. And something would happen, somebody would do or say something, you know, and would sit down and say, okay, let's talk about that. Yeah. Coachable moment, you know. And to me, I think it's learned through doing, and recognize that if you're hired to do that job, then I'm going to let you do that job. You know, but I'm going to hold you accountable to do that. You know, not my job, yours. You know, do your job. Yeah, yeah. And to me, well, that's, you know, it's really its essence. A lot of people can't. A lot of people want to keep their hands on folks and not give them the opportunity. You hire good people. You allow them to do the job. I think you provide good leadership and support in that regard. I think you've got a better than average chance of being successful. Pat,